The Lenoir Papers, a presentation by Hugh Barnes, Ike Forrester, and Becky Phillips.
This presentation will be broadcast again through Bill's YouTube feed. I will in turn take it and put it on my website. I teach search engine optimization in Western Piedmont. So what I will do is I will promote it through some of the resources I've got. And so when you Google Fort Defiance, my goal is within 6 months, it will appear directly under your link on the website. I think it can do that. I've even done it with Wikipedia in some cases. So that's the goal. First of all, I'll introduce Bill Tate back there back behind the mic. Bill does a lot of stuff with photo restoration. He's on the board of directors of the Caldwell Heritage Museum. And he'll be taping to do today. Everything Bill does is pretty much gratis. He's here to volunteer today. He has a big interest in history and what's going on in Caldwell County in particular. He's on the board of directors of the Caldwell Heritage Museum. I didn't know that Ike Forrester was going to be here. Ike's sitting up there, the gentleman on the left. And if it were not for him, we would not be having any of this because I didn't know, number one, that the papers existed here in the library, and I didn't know what he had done. But let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about that. And we'll quickly turn it over to Becky Phillips, who's the executive director at the Fort Defiance. Ike is on the board of the foundation over there, Fort Defiance Inc., and he's a member of the Sons of the American Revolution. He is a fourth-great grandson of Wastrel Avery, who was the first Attorney General of North Carolina. He was also basically the creator of the North Carolina Constitution, very instrumental in the signing of the Mecklenburg Resolves, which were it not for that, we would not have pulled away from the UK, from Britain, and declared our freedom here in North Carolina and joined with the U.S. Congress, or the party that became that route. And he was also, by the way, a Whig and involved in a duel with Andrew Jackson, a Jeffersonian Democrat. Ike is also a fourth great grandson of General Lenoir. And we're talking about that. Becky Phillips will be talking about that in a moment.
I had nothing to do with it. That's great.
I will tell you one quick thing. Ike, some time ago, apparently decided to microfilm, or the historical papers were at UNC Chapel Hill as a part of the Southern Historical Collection. It's 1,320 feet of paper. He made microfilm copies at his expense and donated them to Fort Defiance.
Hugh, I'm going to correct you on that.
All right?
Eileen Hyman got the microfilm rolls that are in the library over here.
Okay.
She was responsible for that, not me. What I did was I paid a private company to digitize. There's over 13,000 documents in that collection and on those reels, and I got it digitized so it's on the CD-ROMs, where you can maneuver through it a whole lot quicker than a microfilm reader. So that's what I paid for. But she's the one that got the rolls, the microfilms over here.
Eileen Heilman is the one who gave the money to the fort to purchase the microfilm.
They belong to Fort Defiance, but they're no longer in the library.
Well, Fort Defiance did not have a microfilm reader. They put them on loan. That's on loan to the Caldwell County Library. You got to keep in mind the microfilm reader. It cost about $12,000, and that's a pretty good chunk of money. Ike and I were having lunch together one day in North Wilkesboro, and he enlightened me of what's going on. I hightailed it back over here to track down to find where they were, because I was unaware of this, and so was the former reference librarian. And I began working once Leslie became on board. She very quickly, once she got on board, helped me get where we are today, having opening of the files up and getting access from the library's computer to an index that's on the website. And that's all I'm going to tell you right now. At the very end of the presentation, I'm going to demo how you access it, and we'll be doing that in flash drive. It won't be quite like it is at the library. But now for the main event, Becky Phillips. She's the executive director. She's the executive director for Fort Defiance. She initially started out beginning her career in journalism and research. She's driving through the country one day, and you know what the back roads of Caldwell County are like, seeing signs about Fort Defiance, and made several visits along the way trying to get over there. Of course, they weren't open as much as they are now, but she eventually got in there and got enamored by the textiles and some of the artifacts, did a volunteer work for quite some time, and since in 1997, she became the executive director. She's like a lot of us. I tried to start tracking her down, and Ike told me that she was one of these one-hat persons, and I might find her out mowing the lawn. And so we had some trouble playing telephone tag, but we did eventually connect. So I'll turn the program over to her, and I will pick up after that and talk about a couple of other things and introduce a couple of other people.
Thank you, Hugh. I'm really glad to be here to educate you a little bit about Fort Defiance for those of you who've never been there. And how many of you have been there? Good, most area. And for those who haven't, shame on you, you need to get out there soon. So anyway, just want to tell you a little bit about that. Again, I started volunteering there when I moved to North Carolina in 1987. Started volunteering at Fort Defiance and was totally blown away. Totally just could not believe how much original artifacts they had at the site. It has over 300 pieces of original artifacts and furnishings within the household. And so I started volunteering there in 1987, started pushing to keep the site open because, as he said, riding through the back roads, I rode across the sign that says, Fort Defiance, open April through October, first and third Saturdays of the month. Well, who can, or first and third Sundays of the month. Well, who can remember that? So I did finally catch it open and just thought, wow, great place. So I immediately started volunteering. And then again, as he said, I became the director about 10 years later in 1997. But started doing some research on family and again could not believe how much was out there and written about the Lenoir family. William Lenoir was a meticulous note keeper. He kept notes on absolutely everything. There are actually 10,000 entries just in his journals alone. Now that does not even include all of the letters that he's written and all of the account books and journals that he kept as well. But to give you a little bit of background about William Lenoir, he is the 10th and youngest child, born in Brunswick County, Virginia on May 8th in 1751. As I said, he is the 10th and youngest child. Now, at the age of 14, his father sells the family farm in Virginia, moves them to Edgecombe County, North Carolina, which is on the Tar River, present-day Tarboro. Now, after his father dies, he has no opportunity for any formal education whatsoever. He never formally attends school a day in his life. Yet the man can read and write 4 languages: English, French, Greek, and Latin. Now, he believes in education, so he will begin educating himself. He will purchase his first 2 books at the age of 17, reads and studies all that he can from these 2 books. By the time he's 18, he thinks he's learned enough that he applies for a certificate which is going to allow him to teach school. And I find that pretty ironic. Somebody who's never gone to school is now going to teach school. So he moves back to Brunswick County, Virginia. He still has family and friends in the area. He begins teaching school there. Now this is where he's going to meet Ann Ballard. Now he falls head over heels in love with her, totally enamored with her. And he wants to be near her. She's from Halifax, North Carolina. And he wants to be near her, so at the age of 19, he moves to Halifax, North Carolina, and he opens his own school there. Now, he'll marry her at the age of 20. And pretty soon they have a family on the way. So he decides, the school teacher's salary is probably not enough to raise my young family on, especially in the manner to which his wife has become accustomed, because she's from a rather prominent and well-to-do family. So at her encouragement, she encourages him to apprentice with a surveyor. She knows he was very mathematically inclined and has a head for numbers. So he apprentices with a surveyor, learns the art of surveying. That's what's going to bring him out here to this North Carolina frontier. He's going to come here strictly for the work. But he falls in love with the area once he gets here. He thinks it's beautiful. Also, the land here is very, very cheap. And of course, land translates into wealth. So he begins to buy up a lot of that cheap frontier mountain land out in Happy Valley. And he moves his family there just prior to the Revolutionary War in 1775. He is going to move first to Fisher's Creek, which is present-day Wilkesboro, which is 23 miles down from where Fort Defiance is today. And from there, he'll move into a 2-room log cabin out in Happy Valley, across from Buffalo Creek, or right at the mouth of Buffalo Creek, so to speak. And then he'll finally move into his big house, which is where he'll spend the remainder of his life about 10 years later. Now, once he does move into the area, he does become very involved in politics. He serves in both houses of the legislature. He's the Speaker of the House, Clerk of Superior Court, Justice of the Peace, Chair of the Court of Common Pleas, member of the North Carolina General Assembly, and he was also the first president of the Board of Trustees at UNC Chapel Hill. Lenoir Hall at Chapel Hill is named for him. The town of Lenoir is named for him. The county of Lenoir, Lenoir Street in Raleigh, also Lenoir City, Tennessee. So he really has made quite a name for himself. Pretty amazing for somebody who never went to school a day in their life. So he really is quite the entrepreneur. He's got a lot of business ventures going on out in the valley as well. He will at one time own over 22,000 acres just in the valley alone. He'll have 6,000 acres of that under cultivation that he's growing crops on. He has a grist mill, sawmill, loom house, blacksmith shop, breeding stables. He was really into breeding horses. And he also has a distillery. He will procure and make quite a bit in liquors and distilled goods, which is one of the ways he made most of his cash money, quite frankly. So he really does have a lot going on, much like Jefferson and Washington was at that particular time. Now, he and Anne will have 9 children. She'll have her first child at the age of 22. She has her last child at the age of 26. Of the 9 children, 8 will grow to adulthood. Now, Lenoir is probably most known and noted, though, for his participation at the Battle of Kings Mountain. He was a captain during the Revolutionary War. He does not become a major general until 1795. He will help to raise more than 200 men for the march to Kings Mountain as part of the Over Mountain Men. And Fort Defiance is an actual certified site on the Over Mountain Victory Trail. So once he gets to Kings Mountain, he has ridden ahead of his troops. He's turned his troops over to someone else and rode on ahead because he had a mounted horse in search of Ferguson. He'll be wounded twice at Kings Mountain. He's shot in his left arm. He's shot in his side. His clothing is riddled with musket ball holes as well. He talked about how minor he considered his wounds compared to the humbling experience of actually having had his hair or his ponytail, his queue or his ponytail shot off his head right about where it was tied. Pretty close call. I can't even imagine hearing and feeling a musket ball go whizzing by. You reach up and your hair is gone. That's a little close for comfort. He thought it such a humbling experience that he never grew his hair long again. He left it short as a constant reminder of just how close he came to being shot in the head and killed at Kings Mountain. But he does come back and continue to thrive and prosper in the valley, obviously, since he does build his house out there after he comes back from the war. And as I said, he and Anne will raise most of their children there in that house to adulthood, and his children will marry. Some of them will continue to live in the valley and build their homes out in the valley as well. Now, William will die 2 days shy of his 88th birthday on May 6th in 1839. So he lives a very long and productive lifestyle. And I actually have asked Ike Forrester if he will help come up and actually talk about some of the things that are in the papers to give you a little bit idea of just how much is involved in the papers. He's done much more extensive work in those than I have. So if you don't mind, Ike, I'm going to have you come on up and talk a little bit about what we can hope to find in the Lenoir papers.
Well, here you go. That's what's in them. Actually, I have indexes, 2 sets of papers here. The collection at UNC is over 13,000 documents. The Lenoir collection and the Southern Historical collection there at UNC, Chapel Hill, the library. But it's not just about the Lenoir family. There's a lot of writings to and from members of the Lenoir family. But you know, they wrote to everybody. They had relatives everywhere. So it includes documents and writings to and from the Norwoods, the Joneses, the Gwynns down in Surrey, what's now Surrey County, right up, well, eastern Wilkes County, I should say, Elkin area. There's especially the Civil War writings of people like Thomas Lenoir Norwood, who was wounded 6 times but survived the Civil War. Very interesting accounting there of him being captured at Gettysburg and actually escaping, and then falling in later after he was given civilian clothing by a sympathizer. And he fell in with the Union troops, and they thought he was a local, and they put him to work. So he's right in the middle of the Union camp, and spends the entire day, and then he asks for volunteers to go work on the breastworks closer to the Confederate line, so he volunteers to do that, which puts him to where he can escape then and get back into the Confederacy. General Longstreet found out about him and took him to General Lee, and he spent the night with General Lee at General Lee's camp, and then had breakfast with him the next morning, and that was an interesting story. But anyway, it's full of papers, writings about the post office. Fort Defiance served as the United States Post Office for many years. The general's son, Thomas, was the first Postmaster General. His son, Rufus, the general's grandson, served as Postmaster General. Edmund Jones served as the Postmaster General, all out of the Fort Defiance Post Office. And those postal records are all in these papers. There's writings to the Pickens family. One of the general's daughters married Israel Pickens, who was the governor of Alabama. And there's a lot of correspondence with them. So there's livestock books, there's gristmill and political papers, a lot of legal papers about things that were going on, tax records, a lot of military records. So that's what's in the UNC collection. And as I say, there's over 13,000 documents there. That's what's on this microfilm that's here. And it's a lifetime endeavor to try to see every one of those. But in addition to that, and what Hugh is trying to incorporate into his website is these papers, which I brought a couple of boxes of here today. These mainly came from Allen Lenoir Poe, and I'm sure a few of you are familiar with Allen. They came from other family members as well, but there's over 5,000 documents here that are now in my possession. And somebody needs to do something with them. But they're here. These are papers that really haven't been seen by historians. That the only historian other than Allen who has seen these papers would have been Thomas Phillips Hickerson. When he wrote Happy Valley in 1940, he had access to some of these. And Echoes of Happy Valley in 62, he does have some of these letters in those books. So he obviously was given access to some of these things here. There's an index of these. But the papers are just a wealth of information about Wilkes County, which is what Happy Valley was during the general's entire lifetime. He lived there. It was Wilkes County. He died in 1839. Didn't become Caldwell County until 1841. So they all say Wilkes County, but they're referring to the Happy Valley area and the families that lived in the Happy Valley area and here in town too. There's some other things up here that I've kind of just brought, and I didn't bring but one copy of them, but you're welcome to anybody that wants that one copy when we're over through here tonight if you want it. There's a paper written by Allen Poe on the origins of the Lenoir family. You stole it, didn't you, already? There's some of you, and I know Bill especially, you might be interested in his family files, where he did research on various families in this area and eastern Tennessee and everything, and I've got a list of those files that I've spent way too many rainy days sitting there trying to put these papers in some kind of archival form. William Lenoir kept a notebook where he listed the military service of everybody that served under him. When they went into service, when they were mustered out of service, when they were issued moccasins, when they were issued a rifle, when they were everything about it. So that's very interesting. I've made a little list of some of the men that served under him. This was in the Indian campaigns of 1776 against the Cherokee. We stole that too. And
but there are some papers also at Duke as well regarding the Lenoir family.
there's Lenoir collection at Duke. There's also some at Appalachian. They mainly deal with the grandson of General Lenoir, Thomas Isaac Lenoir. who managed the Haywood farm. The Lenoirs also had a farm down in Haywood County, outside of, what's the name of the town?
Waynesville.
Well, above
Waynesville.
Waynesville, they're on the Pigeon River, East Fork of the Pigeon River. They had about a 5,000 acre farm there. General Lenoir's grandson, William Avery Lenoir, also owned Grandfather Mountain. And his brother, Walter Wakefield Lenoir, who's very interesting, there's a lot of writings here from Walter Wakefield. He sold 16,000 acres, including the entire summit of the mountain, to Hugh McCrae, who would have been Hugh Morton's grandfather, or grandfather, I believe, for $5
$2 and
to $3.58 an acre,
$2.58.
and was considered that was a great price to get rid of that useless land, as it called it. You couldn't farm it, you couldn't hardly get to it, you know, wasn't any timber worth anything on it. But when you get in, if you get into these papers, particularly look for writings by Walter Wakefield Lenoir, and there's several of them in the other index to this. He was a very eloquent writer. He was an attorney. If you've been to Fort Defiance, you've probably seen his artificial leg. He did lose his right leg in the Confederacy, and but he wrote letters after that about the future of the South and how the South was going to be Yankeeized and what that was going to involve. And it's amazing how perceptive he was. And he also wrote about the superiority of Southern ladies to Northern women. There was a difference between ladies and women.
And if anybody wants to volunteer to transcribe all of those writings
Yes,
for us to have,
please do.
feel free.
Okay, now I'm gonna handle it a little bit different, I was gonna talk about that. When transcribing is a nightmare task.
Oh, it is.
What I was going to propose is we seek volunteers, and rather than transcribe, that we do a summarization. We could create what's called a Google Sheet. We can put that sheet out there and put it up there and protect it, download copies. I pretty well designed one for some Barnes Oxford stuff. We can allow people to come out there and take a document and say it was written in 18 whatever, 19 whatever. Who wrote it, who it was written to, what was a summary of what it was written about. We then create a little database out there that people can go out and keyword search and find things, because there's no way in the world that we could index up 5,000 documents. So this is a faster way to go. It tells you what to go looking for, then you can go out and see the original. And I think I mentioned that to you the other, when we met back in August. But that would speed things up a lot.
Yeah, because there are specific things that I'm constantly looking for when I'm doing research there at the fort. For instance, when certain pieces of furniture and things were bought. So if anybody wants to volunteer and go through that and help me out, I'm happy to take volunteers to do that.
Hugh is toying with the idea, I think, of digitizing all these 5,000 documents that I have and getting them on his website.
I'm not toying with it. I'm dedicated to spending one day a week at your site whenever you say that I can start coming down.
But you're welcome to look through. I just brought one box. There are 22 boxes of this stuff in my office.
And to give you
in
an
the same
idea,
place.
I could, an incredible organizer. He has this stuff summarized as to what is in each box, and here's an example of it. You'll find this, I've already loaded what you've done on the website.
So you
Now,
have,
yes. Now, unfortunately,
did you get my permission to do that?
well, you told me to do it. Now, let me tell you how this website stuff works. It's not real user-friendly. It strips out the really nice formatting that he did, so I don't have the bolding. But I thought it was more important to get the data up there, and then we'll come back in and do that later on. I'm like Becky, one-man shop, although we now pick up volunteers doing things, and I will come back in at a later date and do that.
I'm glad it's you and not me, is all I can say. That's going to be a tremendous job. But anyway, you're welcome to look through. I just brought one box here. It's mainly General Lenoir's writings, to and from General Lenoir, this one box. She mentioned that he was taught the art of surveying, is what brought him into this area. His certificate, 1773, I just turned it to it, where he's certified as being taught surveying. January 23rd, 1773, he became a surveyor. I will show you my pride and joy, but I'm not going to let you take it out. This is what General Lenoir called his book of forms. He started making notes in this in 1768 at the age of 16. And he continued noting favorite Bible verses, favorite songs, different things in this up until 1839, the year he died. And a list of his assets, his estate, and who they were sold to is also in his book of forms that his son Thomas wrote in here after the general had died. But I may open that up.
I think that's the book where we found where he scribbled a lot of little notes about falling in love with Anne and how he never thought that that would happen to him, but he
That's
was
true.
totally smitten with her, and he was just head over heels, you know.
If you give me permission, that's the one I want to scan first.
But you get some idea of the age of this book.
And how fragile it is, so, and I prefer to do that with
Beautiful. Anyway, this is the kind of thing he's going to try to get up and running on the website. But in addition to all this, of course, is the 13,000 documents that are here in this library on the microfilm, which I have digitized because I hate microfilm. I hate scrolling through things. I'd rather just say, I want to go to page 279 on that reel. Boom, there it is. So I'm lazy. Any questions about what's in these papers?
Or Fort Defiance, or? We are open winter hours right now. We're open Saturday through Sunday, or Saturday 10 to 5, Sunday 1 to 5. April through October, we're typically open Thursday through Saturday 10 to 5, and Sunday 1 to 5.
But if you are interested, I'll set these out here. These are the documents that are on the reels here. These are the documents that I have that are stuck in a vault in my office. Nobody's getting any benefit out of them. So that's kind of what this came about. Somebody needs to, these papers need to be seen and used, not stuck away in a shelf.
So his book that he wrote all those little personal favorites in, isn't, pictures of that aren't anywhere?
Not
No.
yet, not
No.
yet.
We need to make
Like I
that.
say, these 5,000 documents, other than a few of them being transcribed for Hickerson's Happy Valley and Echoes of Happy Valley, they're not on any of these microfilm reels. They're not anywhere. So that's why they've not been seen. And somebody that, with a more brain capacity than I needs to sit down and, learn from them. I've got them kind of halfway organized, but somebody else needs can get a lot of benefit out of them, I think. Becky likes to go through and we'll find stuff. We find out new things to add to the tour of Fort Defiance, going through these things we didn't know about the house of Lenoir's, the family, the plantation, the flower gardens, the fruit trees, whatever.
Gardening.
I've got a book on the gardening. I need to get you a copy of.
Yes.
Miss Lenoir loved white roses. She had extensive white rose gardens. But you're welcome to look at what's, like I say, this is with the yellow tag, that's what's on these reels. You can get an idea of it. This is what he was going to try to digitize.
Like going to the water.
Well, you've got, I'm going to jumpstart you here. It's not going to be as bad as dealing with paper as everybody thinks when you read it.
Well, if anybody has any questions, if not, I'm going to sit down.
Okay, if you will look here, this is the other set of papers that Ike has organized. It's particularly organized in the boxes in his office. He created a 73-page index, which is now on the internet, on the website. You can go up there and you do not have to go through paper finding it. Now, you can search it by keyword. And I will explain at the end of the presentation how you do keyword searching on the internet into these files and also the Lenoir family papers. The Lenoir family papers are somewhat difficult to search now because of the way they were organized at UNC. I came along and did a handwritten addendum to those, and he's turned that over to me, and it hasn't gotten to my top of my things to do list, but by January I will have done that, and that will be added to the UNC stuff. So it will be dramatically improved of what's out there now. And that's 2 steps down on my to-do list. And like I said, I may be able to get to it in a month, but I'm not sure. But you can see the detail that I went to putting that up. So there's a tremendous amount of information in those. So that's there, and that's a possibility. I'm now going to turn over the program to Leslie Griffin, who is the reference librarian here in the library. And Leslie worked very closely, and she's chiefly responsible for getting it on the library's computer. And when she went to...
Don't give me too much credit.
She went to the director to get her to agree to all that. And I'll explain to you at the end of the game how you use that index. And it's a no-brainer. And there's a one-page sheet in the drawer where the microfilm is stored, and it'll be there for reference for anybody who needs it. And it's very easy to do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you guys for coming out. It is my pleasure to talk about the Jim McKee Memorial Local History Room here at Lenoir. I have to admit, when I first moved here, I knew nothing. I knew Lenoir, the town. I'm a flatlander. Okay? I'm from Mecklenburg County. And then I came to realize my great grandfather was Arthur McFalls, and he was also an Indian Scout, and I suggested they probably knew each other. And so as I knew more about him, I became more interested in General Lenoir and his family. But when I first got here, I was so interested and impressed with the local history room because it's an incredible resource, and most smaller libraries don't really have them, or they're very, very small, they have a few boxes. And this is just an excellent resource. We do have the reels of the papers, and I also have sort of a little list of the things that we have. There's all sorts of family information about the Lenoir family as well as other Caldwell County families. We have cemetery records. We have the Lenoir News Topic on microfilm and on CD. We have information about Fort Defiance. There's biographies. There's also some company information about some of the companies here. And there's really all sorts of resources. And if we don't have it, we can help you get it. I also have some information from the North Carolina State Library, from our NC Live network with all sorts of databases and newspapers and things like that. It's an incredible resource, and working with Mr. Barnes and others to really understand what's there and how much it means to this community. And we have people coming in just about every day, at least one person a day, to access some aspect of local history, and the Lenoirs are such a huge part of it. I will mention that right now, I believe someone mentioned that the microfilm reader is about $12,000. Ours is down. Specifically, we upgraded our computers. Our microfilm reader is elderly, and getting them to interface together, we're working on that. In fact, I'll be spending probably half of tomorrow trying to get that sort of logistically settled so people can come in. But anything that we can do to help, please let us know. If there's something we can help you access. Also, just so that you know, not to take the fire away from your local history room, if you're doing genealogy, you can call or email the state library. They have genealogists basically on call. You can book them for half an hour at a time, and they will literally work with you one-on-one and step you through the information and resources they have at the state library, or indeed throughout museums and archives and libraries throughout the state. So just to sort of give them a shout out. So again, anything that we can help you with, help you access, give you a primer on how to use, we're happy to do it, either I or my staff upstairs. And our contact information is on our little handout. Please feel free to contact us at any time. And thank you all so much for making all this information available to the people of this community. It means a lot to them. Any questions? Anything? Or just come see me if you're shy. I'm pretty much here, pretty much accessible. Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Thank you, Mr. Forbes.
I didn't do a good job of introducing Leslie. She's not just a librarian. She holds a master's degree in history as well. So she can help on other issues. and she has a master's degree in history, master's degree in library science, and she's been an adjunct professor at a couple of places, and she's got a good background. Our next speaker will be Cindy Day, who is now the executive director at the Caldwell Heritage Museum. They have resources over there on Fort Defiance and other things as well. And she's going to have a few minutes to talk about that.
We have a lot of resources at the library, and I try to send people to Becky's Way when they're looking for something, or as just a point to visit, or William Lenoir, or just to go out to the valley. As most descendants are now aware, the surname Lenoir is of French origin and literally means the black, a term formerly applied to any individual with dark hair and complexion, much as we use the adjective dark. It was probably first assumed as a personal surname by a remote medieval ancestor in the old French province of Brittany, once a separate dukedom in the Middle Ages, lying just across the English Channel from the south coast of England. Now, reading this, I discovered that William Lenoir's ancestors were probably mariners.
We're shipbuilders.
Shipbuilders. And it talks about when Thomas got married, he abandoned the sea and became a tobacco planter for the rest of his life. How many of you know William Lenoir has a descendant that was an astronaut?
Yes.
Yep.
It's a crap.
Yes.
Do you know how that astronaut died?
Yes, bicycle accident.
Bicycle
Head
accident.
injury.
How sad is that?
Yes.
Went out in the space shuttle 3 times, I think, or
Yes.
something, but died on a bicycle.
Bicycle
What's the
accident.
astronaut's name?
William
William
Lenoir.
Lenoir.
That's easy.
Yep. And in perusing this book that we have at the museum, just on the general William Lenoir, John Hawkins in 1993 did an article, and I love the title of this, General William Lenoir Goes Tory Hunting. And he talks about the troops. They were incensed against the Indians that the thought of seeing Roberson punished seemed rather disgusting, and the prospect of such scarcity of provision in the interim of the government in other circumstances would not admit such delay as would have been occasioned by a regular trial, and Roberson was released. So you hear the eloquent language, and sometimes you have to get in there and dig around to see what are they really saying in a nutshell. The style of writing is very different, and that's one of the things I like about the resources that they have, the resources we have. So if you're interested, come up to the museum. Bobby Watson's our librarian. She has a whole section on William Lenoir, the Lenoir family, Fort Defiance. A lot of them are newspaper articles, but they're still valuable resources. So please come up there, give us a call. We'll do what we can to help you, and if I can't help you, we will find a resource and a person to help you out.
My name is Hugh Barnes. I didn't tell you that coming out. I'm the president of the Barnes Oxford Genealogy Foundation, Inc. We're a private nonprofit, just like Fort Defiance. And we started out being just nothing but a genealogy research organization. And it started out with DNA cousins that I discovered all over the country. Now we have 6 PhDs, a state registrar of the DAR, and a couple other folks who are pretty well connected, doing research and writing. Governor Roy E. Barnes, the former governor of Georgia, is a member of our clan and a big supporter. We're going through major renovations or updates of our website. It's not a real pretty website right now, and it was built with freebie stuff because at one point in time we didn't have any money. We now have a little bit of money and we're in pretty good shape, and so I'm not going to ask for money. I'm going to ask for some volunteers. I will not be asking for volunteers for family stuff. We're pretty well fixed on that. What we need volunteers for is for not creating transcriptions, unless you guys insist that we do that. What I want to do is build summarizations of those documents, and then create a database out there that people can keyword search. In doing that, we can collectively do this with other people volunteering to do it, with me putting together instructions and doing what's called Google Sheets. Google Sheets is a pretty sophisticated spreadsheet system, but we can make it available to bunches of people with basically no background in any of this technical stuff. All I have to do is be able to read a document and say that it was written in so-and-so date, by whom and to whom and so forth. Plug that into that, and then me and some other folks will take it and build the index. And that's the right route I would like to go, if y'all would agree. Let's see. If you want to get in touch with me, all you got to do is key in the words Barnes Oxford, and this screen will pop up. And unlike when you normally do a Google search, we have the entire screen. I did that by playing around with what's called search engine optimization, which I teach on rare occasions over at Western Piedmont, and I also teach genealogy at both Western Piedmont and West Community, also on rare occasions. Along the way, we acquired the permission to do 2 other sets of papers. There's what's called the Austin Reed Papers, that is part of a collection at Duke University, Perkins Library. I began working with a deacon over at Antioch Baptist, where some of my family were charter members, and Duke agreed to give those us at no cost. So it's just a matter of going on there and converting their stuff to flash drive and then loading it up. There's another collection of papers that I just got acquisition to, or approval to do last week, and that is the minutes of Union Baptist Church. Also a church founded in 1814. People were released from Antioch, my ancestors, to come to Union and charter the church. The church had the original minutes up until 1895, when the good Reverend Isaac Oxford, my second great uncle, who was pastor there, said these minutes are in bad shape. We need to rewrite them all back to 1814. So he ordered the church clerk to put the committee to do that. The church has those in their possession, and I had the privilege of going down there and seeing them, and you would not believe the history that they're going to reveal. They talk about traditions of, that church did not treat slaves like you normally think slaves would be treated. They opened the church up, allowed slaves to come in. They had to stay in a balcony, but they treated them just like everybody else. And there's lots of that kind of stuff that will be revealed. Now that's going to be a slow process, but this church historian is going to work very closely. We're going to go down there. I might have to buy a new scanner because they're huge. And we'll get those scanned and eventually, and their church historian is going to handle all of that. And once again, that'll be a slow process. But there's a tremendous amount of information there. As I told you, we're looking for volunteers to do not transcriptions, but summarizations. And if I've got some sheets here to talk about the foundation. There's a sign-up process that you can go to on the website. Let's see if I can get to it very quickly. And okay, here's where you go Google Bill Tate. I'll get to that in a minute. I don't have it. Into this document, if you sign on the website, you click on it, you can sign up for a newsletter. Our newsletter, we have 3 newsletters. Barnes, Oxford, and then North Carolina History of Full Hill. So this one is just getting going. Our newsletters go to no one. The only people who have access to knowing who's on it is me, our vice president who's in Lexington, Kansas, and our vice president for information technology in Kent, Washington. So we guard it very carefully. Do not worry about it going anywhere. All the things you will get from that will be a quarterly newsletter. Basically, the only thing in that newsletter will be one thing. It will tell you what new stuff in terms of transcriptions or summaries. No, I take that back. What new things of these handwritten things that you will see in a minute are up there that we've been able to get transcribed and up there, or scanned and up there. And then we might do some things along the way, like tell you that Fort Defiance has had an oyster roast, and here's where you can go get tickets. And that's the only thing we'll do from it. That's it. So this is the end of it, so hope you'll sign up. You can, in the meantime, if you want to sign up today, just do so on the back of one of these documents. We've got a lot of Barnes Oxford stuff out there, but you're not interested in that. I'm going to quickly go through the process that you would go through up there in the room. And it won't take but about 2 minutes till we're through. Okay, great. Is this one, this one here?
Yes, sir. If you want to talk, I'll.
Okay, I'll go over here and I can talk from there. Because I'm through all of this process. And no, that's not the one.
Yep.
That's not it. That's not, it's a PDF file.
There we go.
Zoom to the top of it. Okay.
There we go.
All you do is go to the reference librarian at the front desk up there and ask her where the microfilm is stored. She'll take you into the Jim Key history room in there, and they're right behind the computer. You will go to that computer, and one or two situations will occur. If somebody else has been at that computer before you, you see on the taskbar that small icon for Google, Chrome. If you do not see that, you see in the top left-hand corner the big one. So you click on one of the two. The next step, scroll on down, Leslie. The next step is you click on that, and it will open up a bar at the top of the screen there. At the top right-hand corner, it says, click here, and it will say Lenoir Family Papers. When you click on that, it will carry you, scroll on down, please. It will carry you directly, no, hang on a minute. It will carry you directly on the website. And what you will see is that banner there, and all you end up doing at that point is it scrolls you down to where the Lenoir Family Papers are. You have a couple of options in looking at those. One, you can look at the histories of people that are mentioned there in summarization. And by the way, that is a growing process. We could have linked you to a bunch of stuff out on Wikipedia. But I'm not big on Wikipedia because it's riddled with errors if you know how it's put together. So what I've done is slow that process down. I think I've got 3 up there now. And they're currently tied into NCpedia, which is highly reliable because it's jured. And they ask people to write. And you find that people writing, for example, I use one of the ones I did. It's written by Sam J. Irving, our former U.S. Senator. And others are written by, like William S. Powell, former state archivist. So I'm using those, and we'll eventually get them built, but I'm doing it cautiously because I don't want garbage up there. When you come on down and start looking at those indexes, you hit the Control F key. That brings up a little, go on down more, brings up a little dialog box in the top right-hand corner. And in that, you enter whatever you want to search for. It could be anything. It's just a text string. Now, in this example, I've entered waste slavery. He is referenced, as you will see, how many times? Only 4 times in those papers, in the index. Mentioned tons of times elsewhere. What you will then do is you can scroll down using those arrow keys and find out what page or what portion of the index he's found on. Now, right now, that's a bit cumbersome, but as I mentioned, Ike has developed a supplemental set to that. It's all handwritten. And I just haven't had time to go back and key it all in because it's a cumbersome process, but I expect to have it done in a couple of months.
It'll tell you exactly what page on what reel.
It does.
This document is.
That's right. It does a great job. And I've been using it by hand, but can't do it by keyword. Come on down one more. We'll be through. What have we done on that? Going off the sidebar over here is the building newsletter. And then you can also communicate with whomever about any question you might have. And I think that's about it. It's a very simple process of how to use it, that's it. So, you're not really, don't have any questions, I can help you, but I haven't told you much you need to know. So, appreciate all everybody for coming out, and anybody here wants questions that other folks can answer. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please pause to read these documents. Excellent presentation by Hugh, Ike, and Becky, and Brenda and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for supporting our history.